Everything in a warehouse should have a flow. It comes into the building, it comes out of the building. Right now our pickers start at that end of the building and they finish all the way at the far end, and they put their carts completed over in this area.
All right, I'm here today with Ryan, the GM of our Las Vegas facility. It's a 200,000 square foot facility that we operate and serve about a couple dozen clients. So first of all, thank you for the time.
Yep.
How long have you been running this facility?
It's right now about 8 months.
Okay, so pretty short time, pretty big building. What have you learned over the last 8 months?
Learned a lot specifically about, fulfilling small parcel packages. Previous companies have been in rental industry and furniture, large format just packages.
Okay.
So definitely learning a lot in terms of how to most efficiently ship out the small parcel, where we can improve upon, and what sizes matter the most for our customers.
Okay, so you're the GM of the building.
Yes.
What does that mean? What do you do all day?
So for me, that means I'm responsible for everything that is within the four walls. Any associate that touches a box or misplaces a product, my job is to make sure that we have processes in place, and that if we have processes in place, they're being followed, so that we can efficiently get our inventory in, out, on time. Yeah.
So what are the metrics that every day you're working towards a goal, right? What are those metrics? What are those goals?
Yeah. The main metrics and goals is making sure that we are picking and packing efficiently. We have, our standard is pack 50 an hour, pick 50 an hour. So making sure that the associates are meeting those standards, as well as ensuring that they are set up for success. That's the biggest thing, because if I'm not going to hold them accountable for not hitting their numbers, if I'm not doing everything in my power to make sure that they are going to hit that, whether that's better organization on the floor, more stuff replenned, and at the end, just making sure all the orders are getting out at the end of the day and in a timely manner. We've got some stuff that's expedited that we have to get out by a certain time. I'm very big on getting that stuff done.
So what I always hear, the acronyms are SLA and CPP.
Yep.
Tell me what those two are and why they matter.
So SLA, the service level agreement, that's the agreement between us and our customers. Every SLA is a little bit different per customer. So, we may have a certain percentage that we have to hit to ensure they're leaving, that amount of packages are leaving for the day. I always strive to do a little bit better than that. But it can be different from every single customer. It's not like a one size fits all when it comes to an SLA. You get a customer with a big giant boxes that need to ship out. Maybe they take a little bit longer in order to get out. In terms of CPP, the cost per package, that's the main metric we try to focus on. You can put 20 people in a building when you have the work for 10. That's going to reflect poorly on your CPP. It's a really good metric for me myself to be able to measure how efficiently we are operating and making sure that everybody's hitting their targets of, pick or pack 50 or more.
Right, so basically we make money if we're consistently hitting our SLA while minimizing our CPP. That's basically the business model of this facility. Okay.
Yep.
So when you come in the morning and when you leave at night, what's the first thing you look at before you leave when you get here in the morning, and what's the thing you look at that before you leave at night that makes you know, okay, my job here is done and I can leave?
Yep. So first thing in the morning, I literally wake up and roll out of bed. First thing I do is I just check the report to see how many orders we have on the homepage right there.
Yeah.
And I can just quickly and easily see, okay, normal order volume, accelerated order volume, and that just lets me know that when I come in, I'm either going to have to reshuffle employees to better take care, or if we're slow, I'll give Tomasi a little ping and say, hey, I'm going to be sending some people your way first thing in the morning to do cycle counts.
Right, so Tomasi's our inbound manager.
Yes.
Right? So what basically I'm hearing is if we have more people scheduled to work for the day than what you anticipate you'll need to fill all those orders, we shift some of those people to Tomasi's team so that Tomasi can use them to count some locations that maybe haven't been counted in a while. Is that accurate?
Correct, yep. Okay. Big on cross-training in this facility, so a lot of people know how to do multiple types of jobs. There's times where, we just have a rush and we want to get the orders done, and as we break off and finish and complete a large chunk of orders, we may have them go assist with offloading a truck so we can get that done sooner.
And does WorkforceHero help you manage who's doing what?
So yes, WorkforceHero definitely helps us manage that. It's very easy to just look at a screen, be able to see how many people I have in picking, how many people I have in packing, and then help me balance it out. Maybe Tomasi is light on replan or cycle counts, and just, it really, really helps.
So you were showing me earlier some interesting things that you were doing in Excel to track employees' time off task using the WorkforceHero data. Explain to me why you're doing that and what the goal there is.
Yep. So the biggest reason I'm doing that is so that I can see how much downtime there is with the associates. So the warnings come after 3 minutes of no activity detected.
And the warning is the automatic, like when it turns red on the board, right?
Yes, it'll turn red as a visual cue, but it also tracks it in the system so that I can action it and say, look at several employees over multiple shifts and say, all right, so in the AM shift, there's X amount of downtime. In the PM shift, there's almost double or maybe even triple at times. That way I can look and try to figure out why we are having such an issue in the PM shift, whether it's a system issue, whether it's, lack of orders, in which case, if it was lack of orders in the PM, I would just get on my supervisor to reshuffle and move more towards inventory and cycle counts.
Utilize them better.
Yes.
So basically you go to WorkforceHero, you export the warnings, you do your pivot table, you do your analysis, and then you say, okay, here's what I learned this week. Maybe there's a problem with the person, maybe there's a problem with the shift, maybe everything's great, and then you sort of take your actions from there. Okay. So let's say you can go back in time and give Ryan on his first day something to think about. What would you tell him?
I would say ask more questions. I made a lot of assumptions when I first came in, and everybody at ShipHero is kind of like an open book. If I would have reached out more, I probably would have learned a lot more earlier. I did a lot of double work trying to figure stuff out, but that comes from past experiences where I was one of the only people to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. I think if you ask Rob a question, he'll spend 4 hours explaining you the answer.
Yes.
So, or he's usually quick, but
Yep.
he'll definitely have an opinion. Okay. What's your favorite feature in ShipHero?
Favorite feature is honestly WorkforceHero. Every job that I have had, I have wanted the data and the metrics of individual employees to see who's working on what almost at every single hour of the day, and this is finally allowing me to view that and create actionable data.
Any tips for a new GM of a building for labor force management, not the technology, the people side of it?
So the biggest advice I'd have is just to not be afraid to ask people what they are doing. A lot of times managers and supervisors are kind of scared to have that initial conversation, especially with a new, they don't want to seem like they're harassing them or bothering them. But feel free to ask them like, hey, what are you doing? And just reinforce it like, I'm just curious, I want to learn. Like, what do you do in the first hour of work? What do you do as soon as you get off of lunch? Like, what are you doing right now? Like, what is going through your brain? Yep.
Ask the question, right? We always believers in ask the question, you get an answer, and that's great. Can you give me an idea of what the new employee onboarding, not the HR part, but the training and where you start them and where you move them to when you bring a new associate in?
Right now, once I get past, get through the HR training, they come directly to the floor to one of the supervisors who immediately pairs them with an associate who can train them on the basics of what their task is going to be.
Peer training?
Yes, peer training. So we do that for a couple of hours or until the associate is comfortable. As soon as they are comfortable to be able to operate on their own, we kind of let them go do their thing, check in every once in a while. At the end of the day, we'll review logs if we can to see, how well they did picking, how well they did packing, and some stuff is a lot easier to get them out into the world than others.
Do you typically start with picking or packing?
Always with picking.
Picking, interesting.
Yep, 100% starting with picking. Because if you make a mistake in picking, you're going to catch it in packing. If you start them in packing, then
that's smart.
It's done.
So you bring in a new picker, and I assume you see in the hero board at the end of the day how many units they picked, right?
Yes.
What's the UPH, the units picked per hour? That's like, this person needs to be retrained or let go versus they're safe versus like this is a superstar.
So for me personally, I try to keep it at 100 per hour.
So that would be a like solid. This is a solid associate. We're going to keep investing in them.
Yes.
What about like day one? Because day one, day two, it does take some RAM time, right? Are you seeing that right away, or does it take a couple of weeks till they get up to that level?
It typically takes about 3 to 4 days.
3 or 4
to
days
get to that level.
Okay.
And it just depends on what we have in that time period. Because if you're doing a multi-item batch right off the bat, pretty easy to hit those numbers. If you have them working on custom or other specialty types of things, those numbers are going to fluctuate wildly.
Socks are faster than standing desks.
Yes,
I've learned
absolutely.
that, right? Working in a warehouse. Okay, now what's the trigger that's going to say, okay, I'm going to now cross-train this person for packing? How do you know they're ready to be trained in packing?
So partially it's time. Secondly, it is how many errors. Most of the time, about a week, maybe a week and a half.
Pretty
I
quick.
prefer to have them pick. So then we can move them over to packing once they feel comfortable and they almost feel like they can pick in their sleep.
Right.
And as long as it's a low error rate. So we are tracking if an associate puts too many items into a bin or too few items into a tote.
And how are we tracking that? By the use of the hospital button, or how do we know?
We use by the hospital button, and then the WAM or a supervisor will look at it, and we just internally track if there was an error, what the error was, true scan not in tote, extra items in tote, things of that nature.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, WAM's a warehouse account manager.
Yes.
What's a WAM's job?
So the WAM's job is, it's massive.
Okay, it's a super important role.
Yep, super important role.
Christian leads them. She's our chief WAM officer, so
Yep.
shout out to Christian.
Yep.
All right.
So the WAM for us here in Vegas, they are a lot of the main interface between a customer and us in the warehouse. So on top of the other duties that they have, they're the main voice that we have. If we have an issue with a product and we find out like maybe something is non-compliant, or we're having issues in terms of automation, such as an item is too big and it's showing up in a multi-item batch. It really should be custom. They are the ones that kind of take that off of my hands and my manager's hands to get it fixed so that we can keep our pickers picking efficiently.
Right, and the reason why we introduced the WAMs is customer support, instead of going to the warehouse manager, instead of going to Ryan with every question, can I go to the WAM? The WAM can address those customer-specific issues and leave the warehouse manager, general manager, to manage the team, manage the floor, manage the process, rather than get buried in customer-specific things. So I'm not sure that WAMs are an acronym anyone else uses, but it's WAM's been a super helpful innovation that we've been using here at the ShipHero fulfillment warehouses. So recommend you guys try that.
Yep.
WAMs also deal with problem totes, right? So if there's a tote that has an error, missing a product, won't scan, they just get through the resolutions on all those as well, right?
Yep. Anything from a short pick to address issues, label issues, all sorts of stuff.
All right. Can I have you walk us through how the packing stations here are set up?
Are we going to do that physically over there? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
All
Yep.
right.
So this is one of our pack stations. It is where we ship out all of our multi-item batch and single item batch orders. It is designed to go from left to right and to not to touch anything whenever possible. We scan we scan the totes, we scan the items, we then go to select the boxes. We've got smaller boxes up top, we have larger boxes down below, as well as poly bags. So the idea is for a packer to never have to touch a mouse or a keyboard. Everything is basically automated to the point to where they only touch the box that they select, they build it, they scan the item, pack it out, seal it up, label it, get it on out into the mail totes. So we do have lights at the pack stations. Our packers, when they go to the station, they turn it green so that way the water spider or any managers knows who's at a pack station and which ones are empty. If they are running low on supplies, they turn the light yellow. That alerts somebody to come and give them assistance. That's typically if they are running low on 644 boxes, poly, or anything like that. If for any reason a packer is unable to complete their order, they turn it red, whether that's they don't have any totes, there's a system issue, they are basically dead in the water and they cannot do their job. If any of us sees a red station, a manager, a supervisor, or a water spider will pretty much make that their top priority to try to fix. So the water spider's main job is to ensure that the packers are well fed at the stations with totes, boxes, and supplies so that they can try to focus on just packing out as many orders as possible and not worry about anything else. Their job is to bring them everything that they need so that they don't have to leave. Also troubleshooting anything that may go wrong with a station. So the other thing is, if it's going to take more than 30 seconds to fix, we're just going to have the water spider move them to another pack station. That's why we have ones that are empty that aren't being used. So that way we can troubleshoot the issue if it's a longer fix and keep the flow going and ensure that the packers are going to hit the numbers that we want them to hit. So if we have a problem tote, whether it's you don't have all the items you need, it's a label issue, anything like that, we do have a hospital button. So in the middle of packing, if you have any of those issues, you hit the hospital button, you turn it around and put it back onto the cart, and it's going to go to the WAM to get looked at and resolved. So we have two cameras. We have one that actually hooks into the computer and one that works off of Wi-Fi. The one for the computer is for the orders. So when we hit the photo and label button, it'll actually take a bird's eye view of whatever the packer is packing. And then we have the Wi-Fi ones which actually connect to a device over at our outbound command center. We just have pretty much every single pack station on the screen at the same time. So we can just try to make sure that, people are adding the appropriate amount of dunnage, people are using bubbles when necessary, and that they are sealing up with the appropriate amount of tape. So when we do void fill, we've got a couple of options. We either have bubble wrap, which is down here, or we use the paper void fill, which is going on behind me. So it's automatic, so if you pull it, more comes out, or if you need longer rolls, there's a pedal down here, and I can make an endless amount come out. So Vegas is kind of unique. We are a very hot facility, and we are in a very arid and dry climate. We have something called evaporative coolers, which help keep our employees cool. What that is basically just a giant wet fan on the top of the building that sucks in moisture and throws out a cool breeze. We also have fans at the packing stations, and during the hot heat days of 100 to 116, 120 degree weather that we have, we also provide our associates with Gatorade and electrolyte packets so that we can ensure that everybody is staying hydrated.
The way this is taped off, I think you came up with this, and we're going to get to some other buildings. So explain to me what we're doing here.
Everything in a warehouse should have a flow. It comes into the building, it comes out of the building. Right now our pickers start at that end of the building and they finish all the way at the far end, and they put their carts completed over in this area. So we do follow FIFO for the carts that are being done. And where we're standing right now, the expedite and priority area means that it's going to the front of the line. So if somebody picks an expedite or priority cart, it comes here. The water spider is going to bring it to a pack station first. All our regular orders that are due today that are not expedite or priority, they all come right here. And as they're picked, they're packed. We don't give any preferential treatment to anything over any customer over another. We just get out whatever gets picked first.
Okay, so the way I understand this works is any order that's expedited, priority, or urgent gets staged, those carts get staged in this box.
Right.
As soon as there's an available associate to pack out orders, the water spider takes from this area first, brings it to them. Once this area is empty, they grab the first cart in the default area, which would be the first picked on the day, bring that to the packing area, keep working through it in order. So the first cart picked is the first cart packed, correct?
Correct.
So we don't end up with someone, let's say, cherry picking and say, well, that's a sort of a tough one. I don't really want to pack that out because it has a lot of bubble wrap, and they choose to skip one, right? Like it's FIFO, first in, first out. You get what you get, right?
Correct.
And then we have over there custom. So those have a separate station that's just got like a bigger area to pack on, right? It's not on the desk, it's on its own standing little scale. And we have that staged separately so the water spider knows to feed the next custom station with those, and there's no mixing, so you don't get a custom accidentally in a regular, right?
Correct.
That's the way it works?
Yep. The important thing, and why I like to run FIFO for the carts, is that at 10 a.m. every single morning, we have already packed out all the orders that were picked the previous night, so we can run an aged tote report and see if there are any that maybe didn't make it into hospital or are just missing, so we can go find them, action them, and we don't run into, well, this tote was picked 2 days ago, why is it not packed out yet?
All right.
We get ahead of it.
So the way you make sure that no totes sit and wait until the customer complains about it is you FIFO all the cards, so first in, first out.
Yes.
Which means if by 10 a.m. today there's a tote that was picked yesterday, it's not waiting, which means it's in the problem tote area or some other issue, and you know to dig in, correct?
Yep.
All right.
If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button.